Here's a watch I was very excited to get in for review, and one I have been looking at since its release in May of this year. It's the Citizen Promaster Dive, an affordable citizen diver with an old school look, a clean and easy to read dial, a thick bezel, an attractive bracelet, and one of the more affordable models from Citizen that has a sapphire crystal. It's all stainless steel, has a 41mm case, a solid bracelet with a dive extension clasp, and it comes in a few different colors, but I went with the Go With Everything Black. Oh, and I so wanted to be in love with this watch, and while I really like it, I will tell you why I don't love it in this review, along with everything else about it, so let's get to it. First off, a thank you to Sakura Watches out of Japan who sent this watch for review. And while I don't have a discount code for this one, or at least they didn't get back to me with one before I started this review, I will put one in the description if they do and you wanted to check them out and purchase from them. This watch is available directly from Citizen and of course a few other places, but it does look like the black dial is not available directly through Citizen currently, only this blue dial shown here and a green dial with gold PVD. The full lineup is those colors and this black dial, and then there's also a green dial stainless. Retail price on this is currently $450, and it's on sale at both the Citizen website and Sakura Watches for between $360 to $385. On screen, you'll see the complete specifications, and the first thing I want to talk about is the size. We all have our preferences for size and how things wear, and while this ProMaster is listed at 41mm, I feel it looks small on my 7.5-inch or 19.05cm wrist. It's one of those weird things as well. When I look at it on myself in the mirror, it looks fine, but when I look down at it, it looks small to me on my wrist. It's just a tapered design of the case coupled with that thick bezel insert that makes it feel small to me. Now, I wouldn't change the design, but I would love to see this in a 42 or 43mm as it just wears small. Now, before I get into the bracelet and the clasp and such, let's backtrack here and take a look at the overall design of the case. It's a fairly simple design. The case is fairly thin at 11.8mm, with that mid case being around 6mm thick, and it has a beautiful satin brush finish with a polished top chamfer, and the polish elements extend to the bezel edge and the crown. But nothing about this watch feels flashy or too polished, and as many of you know, I prefer watches, especially dive watches like this, to be more brushed than anything. And even on the bezel, it alternates polished with brushed in the grooves, and it's not super mirror polished either. The lugs have a nice slope and taper to them, and one thing you'll notice is that it doesn't have drilled lugs, something I was surprised to see that Citizen omitted. I measured 6.4mm in diameter for the screw-down crown, which even with the crown guards is large enough for my medium to large size hands. I always say I don't have massive hands, but generally wear a large sized glove. Nothing really to report on the crown either. It's easy to use and I haven't had an issue with it. Now, I have seen reports of issues with this bezel though, where some have slipped through quality control and either the aluminum bezel insert is misaligned or the bezel just doesn't click into place properly. This example seems to be good. The bezel markings line up with the indices on the dial, and while I wouldn't call this the best bezel I have ever turned, it doesn't feel sloppy at all, though this is a 60 click bezel and not a 120 click. What I did find though is that the second hand is not hitting all the markers, something that seems to happen with a lot of affordable quartz movements. And yes, I know, it's a solar ecodrive movement, but there is a battery cell in there and it still ticks like a quartz. It's off mark from about 0 to 36, and then it seems to hit the markers dead on. While $450 is not expensive in the watch world, I still think the second hand should hit the markers dead on for this price. Now, while the dial is called black, like with many of the ecodrive models, the dial has a transparency to it so it can charge with the sunlight, so in reality it's more of a charcoal gray. Now, if you were wanting a pitch black dial, this one isn't it. Otherwise, it is a pretty standard Citizen diver dial with very familiar hands and applied indices. It's not overdone with the text, and it has the simple date at 3 o'clock. In the dark, it does the job extremely well, which is what I expect from a Citizen or a Seiko diver, and it doesn't disappoint. It's very bright and a good green C3 color, but I wouldn't put it in the all-night lume category as I have found it fades out around 5 to 6 hours. It's strong lume, but if you're an 8-hour sleeper, don't expect it to still be glowing when you wake up. Nothing really to mention about the case back other than it's pretty flat, which helps with the comfort when on the wrist, and with that, let's get back to the bracelet. If you are a fan of Citizen or have bought one of their divers over the years, especially some of the titanium ones, it's extremely similar to the ones used on the titanium and super titanium divers over the years, except it's stainless steel. The end links are solid, though I wish they fit up better to the case. It's flush, but the end link curves, and my eye is constantly drawn to it. Now, these are male end links as well, so if you're someone with a small wrist, keep that in mind, as it will make it feel longer on your wrist, but I really don't notice it, unless a watch is massive or the bracelet doesn't drop down after the first link, which this one does. It doesn't bother me to have the male end links. The bracelet is brushed with polished chamfers in between the top and the bottom of the square links, just enough for it to pop, while again not making it flashy. I like the look of the bracelet and how the center links sit proud of the outer links. It's a Citizen diver, so of course it uses the pin and collar system, and if you don't care for sizing bracelets like these, just do what I do and go to your local jeweler. The clasp is an old style from Citizen, but it's more of a dive extension clasp, unlike a lot of the micro adjustment clasps we see from a lot of micro brands these days. It functions well though, the deployment part is solid and not stamped, and while it does make this a massive clasp on your wrist, especially if you do extend it out to give yourself a little more length, I do like how it functions. I took out 2 links for my 7.5-inch wrist, and I had to move the extension out a little. Now, if you have a smaller wrist and you need a lot of links out, it could get awkward as to how it would sit on your wrist with this very long clasp. Despite me finding it to wear smaller on my wrist than I thought it would, I really still like this watch. It somewhat reminds me of a few Seikos, just the look of the case and the bezel, but it's still very much a Citizen, and I think the thing I like the most about the Citizen Promaster Dive is that it's just a simple and clean diver. It's somewhat old school looking, yet it feels modern, and it has Sapphire, something I would curse about when looking at certain Citizen models, such as this Super Titanium Promaster Dive, which is titanium with that Duratec coating, yet it has a mineral crystal, and as you can see, the sale price on that one is $460. So I'm glad to see Sapphire, and I hope this is a trend Citizen continues. The bracelet fits well on my wrist, though I haven't tried it on a strap yet. Been thinking about a red FKM rubber for it, but it is very comfortable, and I do find this simple and clean look very attractive, and with this black dial, very versatile. Thank you again to Sakura Watches for sending this along for review. I will have a link to their website down in the description. I want to hear from you though. What are your thoughts on this Citizen Promaster Dive? Do you own one or have you been thinking about one? What are your opinions on this piece? Be sure to let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and I will see you next time.